taking Torah.
No, do you take it? You don't take it.
2 pills of Torah a day.
No antibiotic? No.
Okay, we are now discussing page 115.
Torah, that's cute.
Sorry, a little bit before that. I skipped. 107. 107? Yeah, I guess so.
That's why I get
109, sorry. No, 107, you're right. Oh boy, you guys ahead of me. Page 107. And we know there's a very famous Chavetz Chaim. There's a story about the Chavetz Chaim who was once on a train. And he was going somewhere.
What's the topic today?
Pardon?
What's the topic today?
The topic today is being upbeat. Upbeat. The topic today is being happy and upbeat. And how do we do that? And the answer is that the words that we say to ourselves and the way we tell other people, the words we talk about ourselves and the words we use to talk about other people. And some people are always very positive and some people are always very negative.
Oh, yeah.
And being negative is a very bad trait. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday. And they were talking negatively about this one and that one. I said, why are you saying this? He said, well, it's true. Well, that's the definition of Lashon Hara. It's true and it's bad. It's true is a definition. If it wasn't true, it would be Motzi Shemra. Motzi Shemra is saying bad lies about something. So it's true. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right.
What's the difference between Lashon Hara and what you just said?
Motzi Shemra is even worse than Lashon Hara. It's false. It's lies. It's bad and it's false. It's bad enough to be bad and good, but it's bad and false even worse. So it's libel, basically. It's saying something false about someone. So Rechilut is just telling tales. It doesn't have to be bad. It can be good as well. I saw your friend here, and I saw your friend there, and I saw this one. That's gossip here. That's lower. Gossip is a lower level, but there's a worse level, which is a person who is a Baal Rechilut. A person that's all they do all day is gossip. Gossip monger. That's the worst. Okay, so the Chavetz Chaim is on the train. He's on the train, and someone is talking about. He's so excited because he's going to see the great Chavetz Chaim. The guy next to him is jumping on his seat. Chavetz Chaim says, why are you so excited? He says, I'm going to see today. I'm going to get off at this stop. I know the Chavetz Chaim is coming to town. I'm going to see the great Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim says, what's so great about the Chavetz Chaim? He didn't know it's Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim says, what's so great about this Chavetz Chaim? He's nice, he's a regular man. He's like you and me. And the guy smacked him. I said, how could you dare talk about the Chavetz Chaim? He's the Gadol Hador. He's the great of the generation. He's the leader. Chavetz Chaim kept quiet. And he got off at the stop. And everyone comes to the train. Everyone's waiting of him. The crowds of people. And the guy is looking. He says, who you greeting? He said, we're greeting the Chavetz Chaim. He says, where? He said, the man I sat next to on the train. I hit him I slapped him. So he goes, his rabbi said, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. I'm sorry. So Chavetz Chaim says, you taught me a new law. So what was the new law? You shouldn't even speak bad about yourself. So a person should not even speak bad about themselves. A person should speak positively even about themselves. And it depends. So especially when people are around, speak bad about yourself, then people are going to believe you. Say, hey, he said himself that he's no good and he's this and he's that. So that is a very important idea, not to speak bad. And try and find the positive in everything. And every cloud has a silver lining. We always have to try and find the positive in everything, which is very hard to do. So we know this famous phrase of Gamzu L'Tova, Nachum Ish Gamzu, Gamzu L'Tova. There's a story in the Talmud of a group of rabbi and his students are walking down the street and they see a dog's carcass. A carcass of a dog.
Oh.
And they see that's a mod, a kilim. And the students, stinks, smells, disgusting. And the rabbi said, yeah, but look how white his teeth are. So it's just to find something positive to say. Just to find something positive. So even about people, you can find something positive. Maybe the guy has nice white teeth. He's a nasty person, but look how nice his teeth are. So words are very powerful. Words are very powerful. They change our body's chemistry. The words we use. Happy people use words which are happy. And sad people use words which are sad. So that's a very important key. When a person's already in a joyous state, it's automatic. When you're happy, you say good things. You say happy things. And it's very important to give good pronouncements about people. Everything's going to be great. And this person's going to be great. And this person's going to be good. It's always important to say positive things. And you can tell a person's mental state by what they're saying. So if they're saying happy things, they're in a happy state usually. And if they're not in a happy state, they're going to be in a happy state because they're saying happy things. When a person starts saying nasty things and mean things, that's what kind of state they're in. So it's very important. And the usage of these words improves a person's state. So we're very important to improve our state by the words we use. So a person should have favorite words. It's important to talk about this. That we should make certain things our favorite words. And he gives a list of favorite words. Number 1, it's wonderful. Oh, make that part of your dictionary. Wonderful. I'm excited. Wonderful. Excited. I'm happy. One of the most amazing things about so-and-so and so-and-so. Well, that was terrific. Great. I have a rabbi who's always, his main writer is great. How's everything? Great. How's this? Great. Everything's great. Or magnificent. That's amazing. Okay. Amazing. Great. Unbelievable. Okay. So there's a nice list of words to remember. So you go home and the kid comes home from school. How's your day? Great. Fantastic! It was great. You mean amazing? It was an amazing day. Every day is amazing. It's an amazing day. Unbelievable day. Wow. So it's very important to be positive, and this applies everywhere a person is, in your workplace, in your home, everywhere you are. If you're upbeat, people around you will become upbeat. So it's very important. You can be the locomotive to pull everyone else along. So a person says, I felt like celebrating when I heard the wonderful news. I'm feeling better all the time. So how are you? I'm feeling better every day. Every day I feel better. Every day I feel better. That's a beautiful idea. Brilliant. So look at all these great ideas a person can have of what to say, words to say. Remember these words. Amazing, great. Some words are much easier to remember than others. The words which you like, that's who you are. The words you like, that's who you are. That's who you can become. So remember, the words we use, that's who you are and that's who you become. The words we use, that's who we are and that's who we become. It's a very, very important idea. So sometimes a person might say, I would have preferred if things were different. So that's lighter than saying it's terrible and bad. You can always say, I prefer Gamzula Tova. It's a very nice way of saying it. I prefer something is different. Gamzula Tova. It will be for good. It will be better. Things are good. Now we come to chapter 39, which is very, very important and so hard to do. This is really critical. This is really the hardest thing to do, and that is Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. And we have to realize who is a mighty person, the person who controls themselves. The hardest thing we can do is control oneself. And there's a very famous pasuk. He doesn't bring it down. It's good to write this pasuk down. I wrote it down on top. It's from Mishlei. Shlomo Melech writes in Mishlei, chapter 16, verse 32. In Mishlei he says, Tov erech apayim megibor. To be slow of anger is better than a mighty person. A person can control their anger. It's very hard to control anger. Sometimes a person gets really mad, and it wells up inside. It's like a fire that's ready to blast out. And a person controls it. It turns off the switch of the fire. It's amazing. It's so hard to do. It's so easy to talk about, but hard to do. Turn off the switch of the fire. And that's a gibor. That's greater than a gibor. That's greater than the strongest person in the world. The person can switch off the temper. That's greater than the mightiest person in the world. Wow. Umoshel berucho, and a person who controls their spirit, the person who controls themselves, miloked ir, is greater than the person who can conquer a city. Who's greater? A person who can conquer a city. Tov erech apayim megibor.
Yeah, that I got.
Erech apayim megibor, umoshel berucho, miloked ir.
What?
Loked ir. Loked is a
Capture?
Trap, yeah. Loked ir, to trap a city. It's greater to be control oneself than control other people, in other words. So you see these big dictators, North Korea, Iran, other people, and they can control other people, they can't control themselves. So they get angry, they get upset, they get disturbed. So self-mastery really is the key to happiness. People don't realize that. Because a person feels bad inside, they're not going to be happy. How do you feel bad inside? A person can't control themselves. A person says, I have no self-esteem because I can't control myself. So part of self-esteem is the idea that I'm in control. That's self-esteem. But a person who says, you know what, I can't control myself, my impulses, then I don't have the strength of character. If I have no strength of character, I don't respect myself because I have no strength of character. Okay.
Can you just repeat the Hebrew?
Sure. Tov erech apayim megibor. Get that? Tov erech apayim megibor. Umoshel berucho. Meloked Ir. Meloked Ir, a person who conquers a city. So, Moshe Baruch. It's a very powerful statement, Shlomo Melech says.
But if you control your anger, sometimes you don't feel well.
You're right. But
you
that's
said
not,
you
that's not really, that's bottling it up. But that's not really
Oh,
putting
that's
out the fire.
bottling up,
You can
right.
bottle up your anger, or you can put out the fire. Right? You can lock up the fire in one room, you can contain it. There's two ways of putting out fires. You can contain the fire, but it's still going. The fire's still burning, but it's burning inside you, though. That's the trouble.
Most of the time.
And that's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
Why? Because then a person really feels consumed by it.
Yeah.
So a person feels inside, they're always bearing grudges and always thinking bad things about the other person. They didn't say anything, they didn't do anything, but it's bottled up inside them.
Mm-hmm.
The best technique is to actually put out the fire and not to feel even.
And how do you do that?
So a person's got to work on themselves. A person's got to work on themselves. Musar, that's what we're doing now. It's
Right.
called self-mastery. Learn how to switch off that fire.
Sometimes you tell a person
Huh?
off when you feel better.
Faith in Hashem. Exactly.
Do it.
Okay, so here we are.
You tell you not to do it.
Trust in God.
You can't.
A person trusts in God. I'll say a person trusts in God. Says, listen, I'm not worried about this. God will take care of it. But you know what? A person shouldn't say that. Push and say God will take care of so and so.
But it was all meant to be.
Okay, whatever meant to be, whatever it is, this is my tikkun. My tikkun, this is the way Hashem wants to see if I'm fixed inside or not. This is a good test for me. It was a test. Let's say on. Yeah. So we know Avraham Avinu had 10 trials at least, and we also have trials. Every day is another trial. Every day is another trial. And the biggest trial is, am I going to get angry or not? Am I going to get angry or not? That's the biggest trial. And sometimes the person doesn't say anything, but they get really angry inside. And they're very dangerous. Those people are very dangerous. I find the hardest people to deal with are people who bear grudges inside. Because they don't tell you, but they have this grudge inside. And they just keep on going. It doesn't stop.
Go passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive, okay. But anyway, that's self-mastery. Self-mastery is not even bearing it inside. Just turning off that switch completely. Not just containing it, but switching it off. Amazing. That's power. That is tremendous power. And that gives us many opportunities to feel joy. So the more a person masters themselves, the more joy they should feel. I control my urge on this. I control my urge on that. I control my urge on this. I feel really good about myself. When a person feels deprived by not giving in to their impulses, it makes it difficult to maintain self-discipline. So sometimes a person says, I'm not going to eat this chocolate cake. But then later on they feel deprived. Why didn't I eat it? It was so good, it was so tempting, and everyone else is eating. Why didn't I eat it? So then a person says, I feel deprived by controlling myself, so I feel deprived. They're going to burst out, and eventually they're not going to control themselves at all. So it's very dangerous. And the Yitzhak uses this all the time against us. You control yourself, and look, you're missing out all this fun, and all this thing, and all this thing. You're right. I'm missing out, but you know what? I know it's good for me. I know we're missing out, it's good for me eventually. So a person's got to find out this technique of learning how to switch off these switches of desire and lack of control. When someone shows physical strength in one form or another, or people give it competitions, weightlifting competitions, and all the competitions in the Olympics, right? Basically, it's all physical. But where's the spiritual? I really wanted to design an app, on spiritual growth. Now, I've been talking about it for a while, but I couldn't find a guy to do it for me. I need to find a guy. If you know anyone who can design an app of spiritual growth. So this way, every time a person passes some kind of spiritual test or a test of self-discipline, then we can put something in there. He puts it into his app, and this way he gets points. He gets a little reward. And this way they can feel, a person should feel good. And he talks about, in this book, he talks about keeping a journal. Keep your own journal, your diary. I succeeded in this and this and this and that today. I controlled myself in this and this and this. And you see people on the road, they go berserk. It's called road rage. They go berserk. They can't control themselves. And sometimes you provoke them. You provoke road rage. But it's terrible because they go and they smash the windows. You see them getting out. They can't control themselves. They're totally berserk. Or they can't control their drinking. They can't control their habits. They can't control anything. And they destroy themselves, basically. Self-destruction, because they can't control themselves. So every time a person does a little small thing of self-mastery, a person says, I'm tired. And then I'm going to get up anyway. Self-mastery. I'm hungry, but I'm going to control myself. First I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to eat. That's self-control. And that's what Judaism is all about. Judaism starts off with these small lessons of self-control. So can you imagine the kid, he's in bed, and the parents say, it's time to get up for shul. But what do you mean? He goes, I'm tired. Leave me alone. No, you get up. My father used to wake me up. Every Shabbat, my father used to wake me up. and until I eventually got into it myself. But basically, a kid is not really into it unless kids are very special. My brother was into it. Amazing, very spiritual, from a very young age. But some kids are not like that, and most kids are not. Most kids are not spiritual at a very young age. It's the opposite. But that's the parents' job, is to get them to be spiritual. How do you get them to be spiritual? The answer is you make them do it. You make them do it until they appreciate it, and eventually, hopefully, they'll get to appreciate it. So that's something which we have to learn. That's a mastery of oneself. And then the person says, you know what, now I'm going to wake myself up, even though I don't want to wake up. I want to get myself up. I'm going to go to shul early. I'm going to catch the tefillah. We see people over here coming. Some people come very early and on time, and most not getting to. Let's be positive. They're not there yet, put it that way. They're working on it. They're working on it. People are working on it.
They come.
Coming earlier, yeah. Some people come 11:30. Some people come 12.
But they come.
They come.
They come for lunch.
Yeah. Okay. But Bezrat Hashem, it's a slow process. A slow process. But eventually, a person's going to get a taste for it. Ta'amu ru kitov Hashem. David HaMelech says, "Ta'amu, taste and see how good Hashem is." We have to taste it. A person's going to taste it. Only after tasting and trying, and then liking it, and then the person will get into it. Bezrat Hashem. But every time a person has a little victory in terms of mastering a trait, mastering this, mastering controlling themselves, they should cherish their achievement. And this achievement I want to cherish, I want to make a party today. Why? I control myself. Wow, amazing. I was going to blast, my temper was going to blast out, but I control myself. And a person should pat themselves on the back and say, wow, this is amazing. You would like to eat something which is not healthy for you. Feel empowered for not eating it. The same applies to maintaining any form of diet that you're keeping for your welfare. You have a strong craving for a cigarette. It's amazing to see people, you see less and less, Baruch Hashem, because less public smoking. But I remember before Shabbat, a guy sitting outside smoking like 3 or 4 cigarettes because of Shabbat. Just for Shabbat. Because he knows he's got to stop for 24 hours. I don't know. And that's something the people are studying today. The professors can't understand how they turn off for 25 hours. How the craving cigarettes.
I used to smoke.
It's amazing how to stop it for Shabbat.
It's amazing.
It's amazing how you can stop
The
it.
only reason you wanted Shabbos was to be over, was to get the cigarettes.
Right.
Now that it's
They're
long,
hooked.
I don't care. I mean, it just makes it's
Baruch Hashem.
amazing.
I'm just saying how empowering it feels just to be able to turn off for that 25 hours. So every time a person wants to feel like something which is dangerous for their health and they move their hand away from it, they should feel intense joy. You chose life. It's a mitzvah in the Torah. Bacharta b'chayim, you choose life. And that's a tremendous mitzvah, and that's something which a person should feel joy about. You feel anger towards someone. You like to insult them. Oh boy. And you stop yourself saying that bad word. And that a person should feel tremendous joy for mastering that. You know a piece of gossip. You really want to say it. And you controlled it. Oh, that's so hard. It's so hard. Feel the pleasure of having this self-mastery. Someone asked you to do them a favor. But this person refused you a favor before. So you don't really want to do them a favor. And the person says, you know what, I'm not going to bear a grudge. I'm going to do the favor. The person should feel joy that they acted above their inclination. You caused someone distress. And you have an obligation to apologize. It's so hard to apologize, boy. So that apology, a person should feel good about apologizing about it. So it's good, he says, to keep a self-mastery journal. Write down every act of self-mastery. It's good to have this app. I can't wait. Need to make this app. Self-mastery app or spiritual growth app. Okay, we're moving on to chapter 40. And chapter 40 is interesting. If you've ever seen a sports game, it's crazy. I went to one sports game in my life and I'm not going to go again. That's it. When I was a kid, I was taken by one of my cousins to a soccer game in London. They call it football over there. And there's a team they call the Jews. The Goyim called them the Jews because it's in a Jewish neighborhood. And I don't know why they call them the Jews, but not a single member of the team is Jewish, but a lot of supporters. So I went to that game, and you see, and in England it's very, very basic. People are just standing in the stalls. But they're dancing, and they're jumping, and they're screaming. Oh, God, my sugarness. Okay. And they're drinking. But sometimes they're really happy. When they score a goal, they go wild, they go crazy. They're happy, and they're... How does a person tap into that? Boy, how does a person feel that kind of happiness?
I don't know.
Isn't that a good question?
Yeah,
Huh?
it's a very good question.
But when they lose, then people get
Of course.
Very
the
upset.
opposite.
That's the opposite. Okay,
That
fine.
gets offensive.
I'm not talking about losing. I'm talking about winning. I'm talking about happiness.
That they feel that.
External.
They feel that greatness. They feel that
wonderful.
it's amazing. You see the whole the whole town celebrating.
Yeah.
You know, the whole team wins and the town
But it
celebrates.
doesn't last because they were like top.
It lasts till the next morning.
The next one, not
But the glow is there. The glow lasts. They get drunk and then they have the hangover. And then But I'm just saying. But look at them when they're happy. How do you tap into that? When does a person really feel happy like that? How do we Jews feel that kind of happiness? If you're not,
whatever happiness
Huh?
you can come.
but you get to that level of happiness where they're really jumping and dancing and
Right. It's amazing.
so out, huh? Simchat Torah. It's the only day we have. That's right.
Rabbi, you ever had Hasidic upbringing?
Yeah,
That's
I've never been, but
That's it.
okay, that's it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Or a wedding. That makes
A wedding,
the jump.
wedding. That's right.
Wedding.
That's right. Right. That's our victory. That's a victory. A Jewish wedding is a victory. Thank God. That's a victory for Jewish survival. B'ezras Hashem. And when a child is born, that's the time persons really jump for joy. Really. So think about a sports victory, right? They cheer, they shout, they celebrate. The endorphin levels of the blood go up. Their faces radiate joy. Their voices are jubilant. Amazing. You too can experience this regularly when you master the ability to rejoice and celebrate at will. That is amazing. That a person can turn on the celebration, you know. And that's hard to do. A person's going to feel this, the joy bubbling up inside, and you can tap into anytime you want. Amazing. A person can just burst into song anytime they want. It's amazing. So that's really a gift a person has to have. A person can try and get into that gift. That a person can yell and shout and dance anytime they want. That's being ecstatic anytime a person wants. So how do a person do that? And the answer is keep a list of your victories and celebrate your victories. Celebrate the victories you have every life. Every achievement and success is a victory you could cherish for a lifetime. Learning how to read was a victory. Learning how to write was a victory. Doing the difficult things is a victory. Overcoming personal handicaps is a victory. Feeling joy for the joy of others is a victory. Acting in an elevating manner towards someone who does not interact with you the way you want is a victory. Transcending an insult is a victory. Wow. A lot of victories. A person's going to try and celebrate these victories. We all have victories in life. They're small things, but they're big things. Realizing these acts of self-mastery are victories will fill your life with opportunities to rejoice. All right. So sometime during each day, a person should say, what victory can I celebrate today? What is my victory today? What do I do today that I can celebrate today? There may be days where it will take more creativity to find a victory. The fact that you guys are here is a victory.
That's right.
It's an amazing victory, yeah.
Don't nag your children.
And that is exactly why seeking victories to celebrate is so powerful.
That's a big victory. Don't nag your children.
Okay. Why? It's a mitzvah. Nag your kids.
Right? You have to know when to stop, right?
Yeah, you have to know when to stop. That's the victory as well. Okay, let's move on to chapter 41. And there's a beautiful pasuk psalm in Psalms chapter 100. You know, it's a shame. That's one thing which is missing from this book is the psukim. That someone should write psukim. I should write him a letter and say, you know, you should write some verses, the source material for what you're saying, because he's not giving any Jewish underpinnings over here. But there's a pasuk in Tehillim. I wrote down the psalm. It's Psalm 100, verse 2. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Everyone knows this. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha became a song. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with joy. David HaMelech says, V'gilu bir'ada. And rejoice with trembling. Amazing, very amazing, powerful, very powerful. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. V'gilu bir'ada. Amazing verse. Amazing verse. So the rabbis explained this is a simcha shel mitzvah. Whenever you do a mitzvah, you should feel joy. And a person should feel joy when doing a mitzvah. It's so hard to feel that joy when you do a mitzvah. A person does a mitzvah, he should do a mitzvah with joy. So that's the part. It says the Mesilat Yesharim we learned in the guide to the
Perplexed.
or is it not the guide to perplex? What's called the path of the just. The path of the just. He says the value of a mitzvah with joy is 1,000 times the value of a mitzvah without joy. Imagine the same mitzvah with joy. It's a totally different thing. Totally different experience. Totally different way Hashem looks at the mitzvah. Hashem wants that joy. Hashem wants that happiness when you do the mitzvah. That's very powerful. So if you do it Hashem b'simcha, a person should serve God with the joy. A person should serve God with happiness.
Rabbi?
Yes.
This is a really nice differentiation between the happiness of the Jews versus
Yes.
other nations. Because
Could you
we
speak
don't
up? I
get-
can't hear you.
We don't go and get drunk, but we do ra'adah, we do trepidation. I mean, there's holiness or there's
Yes.
boundaries even in our happiness.
The New Year. How do you celebrate your New Year and how do you celebrate your New Year?
So there's
So I watch the ball drop. I'm waiting for the ball to drop. And then we have a big party. Oh boy. Or I'm in shul hearing the shofar. I'm waiting for the ball to drop, my penny to drop in my head, so I'll do teshuvah. That's what I'm waiting for. So is it fixing yourself or is it just playing around? So that's the rabbis call simcha shel holalut. Holalut, they call it holalut. Holalut, which is just no reason to joy. There's no real reason, no rhyme or reason, just jumping around, crazy. So that's the answer. The answer is, that's what the Gemara says, when you pray, before you pray, you have to be in a happy state. How do you get to a happy state? So the Gemara says you've got to learn Torah before that. Learning Torah makes a person happy. How do we know? There's a pasuk. What does the pasuk say?
What pasuk? Which one?
Yesharim, how does it go? Pikudei Hashem Yesharim, Misamche Lev. Pikudei Hashem Yesharim. The commandments of God are Yesharim, are straight. Misamche Lev, they make your heart happy.
Which pasuk? Which one is that?
It's in Psalms, Tehillim.
I know, you don't know which one.
I would look it up. Yeah, I know. I wish I knew everything off the top of my head.
There's a new app. Just wanna look it up.
Yeah, I can get it. Pikudei Hashem Yesharim. The commandments of God are straight. The Samche Lev, the Rebbe says, they make the heart rejoice. And that's why on Tisha B'Av, we're not allowed to learn Torah. Only the sad parts of the Torah. Interesting. We're not allowed to learn Torah. Most Torah is happy. You learn Torah, it's happy. So before a person prays, they should learn some Torah to make them happy. It's amazing. What is happiness? We see happiness is a spiritual thing. It's not a physical thing. And that's a big danger people make. People make that by getting something material, I'm going to make myself happy. By eating something good, I'm going to make myself happy. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a spiritual thing. If you learn Torah, you get happy. Why? It's the uplifting of the soul that makes a person happy. That's the part people forget. It's the uplifting of the soul. So that's why when you do a good deed, your soul gets an uplift and you feel good. It's the uplifting of the soul inside which makes a person happy. And that's why today's society is so miserable. Because they have all the physical things and it's not making them happy. You know the famous story of the man who went to the psychologist and he says, I'm really depressed. Can you make me happy? The psychologist says, wow, you know, there's a great circus across the street. And there's an amazing clown over there. Just go and see the clown and you'll be so happy. And the guy says, I am the clown. It's a true story. I can't remember the name. It's a very famous clown. And so he can make the whole world happy, but he can't make himself happy. And that's the tragedy. And the reason is because happiness is not what people think. Happiness is not because of physicality. Happiness is not because of materialism, even though materialism is good in terms of it's a basics. You have to have your basics, but it doesn't really make you happy. It gives you comfort, but not happiness. The difference between comfort and happiness that people get confused with. So a person can be comfortable, but it doesn't make them happy. A lot of Americans are comfortable, but we're not happy. So the reason is because happiness is not a physical thing; it's a spiritual thing. That's a very important thing we have to tell people. It's not a physical thing; it's a spiritual thing. So how do you become happy? And the answer is, Pikudei Hashem Yesharim. The commandments of God are straight. Misamche Lev. They make a person happy. David HaMelech says, when you learn Torah, you feel in a different wavelength. You're in a really different wavelength. And here is now, he gives us an effective technique to create joy. Okay. So we have many reasons for experience happiness. Number one, we're alive. Number two, we're breathing. Thank God for that, right? We can breathe. Number three is our brains are functioning. Thank God for that. I mean, if you see people whose brains are not functioning, it's terrible. If you're not happy right now, then in one form or another, your brain is limiting you emotionally. Oh, wow. Not being happy is being limited by the brain, emotionally limited by the brain. Use your imagination to enable you to be in a state that you ought to be in. It's great. It's like Walter Mitty, right? If you read a book about Walter Mitty. Everyone heard about Walter Mitty, right? He was living in his own dream world, right, basically. And sometimes you've got to use your imagination. That's why God gave us an imagination. Imagine a person in the worst place, how do they keep themselves going? You're in solitary confinement, in a jail somewhere, how does the person keep going? The answer is using the imagination. Thank God for imagination. So that's an effective technique to create joy. There's a great rabbi, I tell you, Rav Yaakov Galinsky. Have you heard of him? Amazing. He was amazing because he ran away he was in Germany, in Poland, right? So he goes from the Polish side, the German side, he goes into the Russian side. And straight away they put him in Siberia. That's how he survived. So he survived Siberia. How do you survive Siberia? It's amazing. And they tell you, when you put a sentence to Siberia, you're not going to get out of here alive. So it's amazing. So, and 2 years later, he gets up. Thank God, it's a miracle. He goes to Israel and he starts learning, teaching Torah. Amazing, amazing man. And he's always happy, always happy. So how? Because the answer is you have to have faith in God. Things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. A person has to have faith in God. And they have to imagine things are going to get better. So imagination, that this is your reality. So some people say, how can I fool myself? I'm stuck over here, and how can I imagine something better? How can I even imagine? I'm fooling myself. And the answer is the opposite. Use your imagination to cancel the blockage in your brain. There's a blockage in the brain that will not let a person be happy. So a person's got to cancel that blockage in the brain and make themselves happy. So a person says to themselves, what would make you happy? A person will say, look, most people answer, if I win the lottery, I'll be really happy. If I win the lottery. You know, Rabbi Rieti has a routine. Let me see if I can remember that routine. He has these two English gentlemen talking in the bar. So he puts on this, he's a very good actor, this guy, Rabbi Rieti, he's an amazing actor. He puts on this British accent, he says, one guy's talking to the other, and he's saying, you know, he says, it's amazing. He says, I won the lottery. The guy says, yeah, that's amazing, that's so good. He says, no, terrible. He says, why? He said, bought myself an airplane. He said, you bought an airplane? That's good. He said, no, it's bad. He says, why is it bad? He said, the plane, the engine stopped in midair. He said, oh, God, that's bad. He said, no, it's good. He says, good? Yeah, I found myself a parachute. He said, you found a parachute? He said, that's good. He said, no, it's bad. He said, the parachute wouldn't open. He said, oh, that's bad. He said, no, it's good. He says, why? Because there's a haystack over there. He said, oh, that's good. He said, no, it's bad. There's a pitchfork sticking out the haystack. He said, oh, that's bad. He said, no, it's good. I missed the haystack. He said, oh, that's good. He said, no, it's bad. Landed in a grave.
Yeah, some people see things negative.
So in other words, he says, sometimes you think something's going to be good and really it's bad. And sometimes you think something bad and really it's good. So a person says, you know, I can't wait till I get my first job. And then he gets the job, he says, I can't wait till I lose his job. He gets married, I can't wait to get married. He says, I can't wait to get divorced. People get crazy. The whole life is upside down. So the answer is we have to create our joy. How do we create our joy? The brain sometimes will not let a person enjoy life. It's terrible. There's like an emotional blockage in the brain. How does a person get over that emotional blockage? He says, imagine something good. Imagination. So most people think when they win the lottery they're going to be good, but we know today that 10 years later they're in a worse state financially than before. It's amazing how crazy. It's crazy. Most people are in a worse state financially. Number one is their marriages break down, because the first thing they do is get divorced. Number two is their children leave them because they're not sharing their wealth with people. They run around, whatever. And number three is they change. Personally, they change. Their personalities changed in a terrible way. Most of them. And number four is they overspend and they lose their money.
Won't win.
So it's but just visualize it. So better than winning the lottery is visualizing and won the lottery. Think about a person won the lottery. Every day a person says, you know what, it's great, I won the lottery today. But what lottery did you win? But in my imagination, I won the lottery. Everything's imagination.
I wouldn't make me happy.
What make you happy? Good. So what does make you happy? And imagine that thing. Whatever makes you happy,
Children and grandchildren.
that's it. Imagine them all the time. Just look at their pictures every day and imagine them and think about them, and that's
What
it.
else is
That's
there?
all you need. That's all you need to make yourself happy. The joy of being alive is greater than the joy of wealth. Boy, a person who's healthy really won the lottery. A person's going to think, I won the lottery. And there's so many things to be joyous. So a person thinks, you know, what would make me happy? What would make me really happy? If I wrote a book that sold 50 million copies, wow, that would make me happy. So a person's going to imagine that you did. Imagine you heard the publisher calling you up and say, by the way, your book is a bestseller. It's 50 million copies. Wow, that's amazing. First I got to print them. Or a person says, you know, I would be joyous if I was awarded a Medal of Honor in the presence of 100,000 people. You know, one day, a person gets to Shamayim, you don't know, maybe won the lottery. Maybe won the lottery over there. Person doesn't know. There's going to be millions of people watching. This is your life. Oh boy. It can be very embarrassing. A person goes to heaven and, you know, they play back your life and everyone's watching. That's scary. That's why it's good to do Teshuvah now. But on the other hand, they can be clapping. Every time a person does a mitzvah, they say, wow, amazing. They're clapping, everyone clapping. See all the angels you made, all the angels you didn't make, or whatever. Okay, so a person can use the imagination to make themselves happy. That's amazing. That's we have to use our imaginations more to make ourselves happy. Or even imagine our children. A person says, you know, my child makes me unhappy, miserable. Imagine the child doing well and succeeding at something that's making you really happy. And then now look at the child a different way. Say, listen, I'm imagining you in different circumstances. I'm happy. He says, why are you smiling at me all of a sudden? You always look at me, you frown. Well, I'm using my imagination positively. Okay. Now this is okay. All right. You know what? Next 2 weeks, I'm going to talk about Pesach. Next 2 weeks, I'm going to focus on Pesach, and that should make us happy. You know, it's interesting. Let me just finish off. The Rambam tells us a very interesting idea, and this is a pasuk which we say this every day before we wear our tefillin, because there's 2 paragraphs in the tefillin which most people don't even know, because there's 4 paragraphs altogether in the tefillin. And 2 of them are from the Shema. The first 2 paragraphs are the Shema, and the other 2. This is not the right book. It's the Shabbat book. But the other 2 are from the Kaddish Li Kol Bechor, which is end of Parsha Bo. And one of the verses says, "Zachor et Yom Hazeh." Remember this day. Zachor et Yom Hazeh, Asher Yitzatem Mitzrayim. The day you came out of Mitzrayim. Remember the day you came out of Mitzrayim. So Rambam tells us. He says, we know that on Pesach night there's a mitzvah of Haggadah. And mitzvah Haggadah is based on a verse. The verse says, "V'gadatza lebincha." You will tell your children on this day, saying, you tell your children. Now, what happens if you have no children there? Is there still mitzvah of Haggadah? So Rambam says, yes, it's a separate mitzvah. It's the mitzvah of Zachor et Yom Hazeh Asher Yitzatem Mitzrayim. Remember this day on which you came out of Egypt. Remember the day I came out of Egypt. How do you remember something? Isn't that in your mind? And the answer is no. Remembrance is verbal. Remember the Torah says Zachor, just like Amalek. Zachor Asher Asa Lecha Amalek Baderech. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way. Remembering is saying it. Lo tishkach. Don't forget. That's in your mind. Don't forget is in your mind, but remembering is positive. Just like Rambam says, just like Kiddush. Where do we learn the mitzvah of Kiddush from? Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Remember the Shabbat to make it holy. How do you remember Shabbat to make it holy? You make Kiddush. You have to say the words of Kiddush. That's Zachor. Remembrance is always saying. So how do you remember the day you came out of Egypt? By saying, talking about the story. So Rambam says, when you have people around you who are your children, you fill the mitzvah of V'gadatza lebincha. You're saying the Haggadah already. You're telling your children, that's teaching your children is Haggadah. When there's no children around, what do you do? What mitzvah is that? And the answer is remembering for yourself, telling yourself the story of the coming out of Egypt, and that applies to other people who are not children as well. You're telling them the story, so you're filling it. So he brings down 2 mitzvot on the night of Pesach, which is one is the mitzvah Haggadah, V'gadatza lebincha, telling your children. If you have no children around, what mitzvah are you doing? Zachor et Yom Hazeh, remember this day which you came out of Egypt. Amazing. Remember the day you came out of Egypt, right? That is really our national holiday. Pesach is Jewish 4th of July. It's the 4th of July. Now it's interesting. Do you celebrate, can you imagine celebrating 4th of July before even you left your oppression? You're still living in exile. Imagine. We are living in exile today. We're still in exile today. We're celebrating our freedom, living in a land of exile. How can it be? It's amazing. So, exactly what we said before. How can you be happy when you're living in Egypt? The Jews are living in Egypt. We have all these bad experiences. We were slaves for 210 years. We're living in Egypt. For about half that time, we're slaves. How can I be happy? And the answer is they're imagining their freedom now. Now we can imagine what it's like to be free, because we're celebrating the fact that the slavery ended, and now we have a ticket to go free. But we haven't gone free yet. We're still in Egypt. And the answer is they're imagining the freedom.
There's a difference between imagining for it or praying for it.
Praying is a hope that things will be better, but to pray causes you to imagine. The prayer causes you to imagine. Because the prayer is like the ticket. The prayer is now, what's going to help me to get into that situation? And the answer is the prayer, Hashem will help me to get into that situation. Now I can imagine it's going to happen. Hashem's going to help me. And that's very critical also in terms of making the prayer come true. The person really believes that it's going to happen, is looking forward to it, and asking, when is it going to happen? I'm imagining it's going to happen. Hashem, I believe in you so much. I'm imagining it already.
Well, we Jews are very optimistic.
100%.
That explains the Jewish survival, just like you said, because without hope we can't survive.
100%. And that's hope. So that's emunah and bitachon. Emunah and bitachon are the keys to survival. And the person trusts in God, the person knows there's a God. And trust in God is the next step, which is making it more concrete. Making the emunah more concrete. So emunah is, I believe there's a God. What's it going to do with me? And the answer is, the bitachon is, Hashem is my seatbelt. He's my safety belt. Hashem is surrounding me. And that's going to be my next topic tomorrow night in the class on meditation. Very powerful meditation.
I was going to say there was just a survey published that showed that Israelis are the 11th happiest
Yes.
people in the world.
And wild, isn't that wild?
And the 9th
Are the what?
11th happiest people in the world.
And the 9th
And the 9th healthiest people in the world, with all the wars, with all the cigarette smoke.
Isn't that
Amazing.
amazing?
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
And in B'nai Brak, they live the longest.
And the longest living man in the world is a Holocaust survivor
Right.
in Israel, 114 years old.
Really?
A Holocaust survivor is the longest living man in the world. I mean, that's,
Wow.
if you can't see that as a miracle, that's not. What is a
Oh,
miracle?
wow.
So in other words, Hashem decides who's going to live long. Hashem decides who's going to live long. That's it. Okay, we're going to stop here and we'll continue.